I am Lynn Deutsch, and I am the mayor of the city of Dunwoody. And if you're not here, if you're not from Dunwoody, welcome. I want to quickly introduce council members that are here. I see Councilman Lambert. I saw Councilwoman Lautenbacher, Councilwoman Harris, and Councilman Price. And we appreciate our county commissioner, Robert Patrick, and our county CEO joining us tonight for this important meeting. Thank you, Commissioner Patrick, for arranging this, and I'll turn it over to y'all. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Mayor Deutsch. It's a pleasure being here in Dunwoody. As many of you know, I am a Dunwoody resident in addition to being the District 1 County Commissioner. We had a little bit of an introductory slideshow put together, but I think for the purposes of today, we're going to pass over of that just because I want to acknowledge the issues that have been happening on Chamblee-Dunwoody Road. I get the reports, CEO staff emails out updates as soon as something breaks, and we're aware of it almost immediately. My team, following up with her team, does everything we can to put that message out immediately. In particular, Chamblee-Dunwoody Road breaking as frequently as it has been a concern. What I've asked the CEO, and she has assembled the team. You will see all the actors here, Mr. Reggie Wells, Maria Hauser, Zach Williams, and I believe there's some people with AECom and some of the other contractors that work for the county. We're going to talk specifically about the issue, Chamblee-Dunwoody Road, but we also want to give you the perspective on what it takes to get things to the point of repair and moving forward so that this is no longer an issue for you guys. So with that being said, Madam CEO, if I may turn it over to you for the introduction of your staff, and then we will get started on this. Thank you all.
Good evening. I am Lorraine Cochran-Johnson and happy to be here with you all this evening. Let me say thank you to Mayor Deutsch as well as the council members that are present. And I am told to begin with the house rules. So the first rule is be nice. Your second rule this evening is to turn down or off your cell phones so that there are no distractions as we have our conversation. Also, there are note cards that will be distributed throughout the evening, and you are to use those to write your questions. There is to be no interruptions as our speakers give the information that you so desperately need and that we want you to have. I am big on communication, and I'm very excited to be here. As you would have it, you can't make this up. Just this morning, I got the call that we had yet another water main break. And I want to be very clear, we are very data-driven in DeKalb. I am, as many of you know, from LA, Lower Alabama. And with that being said, we like numbers. That's how my grandfather taught me. So if you want to know the facts in DeKalb County, in 2024, there were 960 water main breaks. We average 4 per day. For 60 years, there was no capital improvement plan. So we have 60 years worth of remediation, and that is how you get where we are. We will take all Q&As at the end, and we hope that the presentation we brought and will make will help answer a lot of questions, but we are here to make it through them all. So with that being said, so that there's no further delay, I'd like to introduce the individuals that have come along this evening that represent DeKalb County in a variety of capacities who will be addressing you. First, I will introduce our Chief Operating Officer, Zachary Williams. And to give you a little empirical knowledge, Zach has an MPA. He serves as the Chief Operating Officer, and he oversees daily operations. Depending on where you are, he is the equivalent of a city manager. His responsibility is to ensure efficient operations. He reports to both myself as well as the Board of Commissioners as outlined within the Organization Act. We won't go into his distinguished career in public service, which has spanned now well over 30 years, not to put a date on you. And his past roles include Assistant County Administrator in Broward County, Florida, as well as being the Assistant City Manager in Coral Gable, Florida. Zach Williams. Next we have with Watershed Management, Mr. Reggie Wells. And Reggie serves as our Director of Watershed Management. So he oversees the county's multi-billion-dollar capital improvement program. Water treatment operations, as well as our wastewater infrastructure. And he is responsible for ensuring that DeKalb remains at the forefront of water sustainability. He's also in charge, or shall I say that his leadership has been pivotal. Reggie comes to us from the city of Atlanta. Many of you may be familiar with their stormwater crisis, and Mayor Shirley Franklin being known as the water mayor. And it was a large part of his stewardship through that time that saw him through. And of course, many of you sitting here are very familiar with the consent decree that DeKalb County is currently under that requires us to expand, replace, and enlarge our infrastructure. So he has been very pivotal in seeing us through the creation of our plans, and he will be successful in seeing us successfully cross the line with the remediation of this infrastructure that we have. Next, we have with us Attorney Maria Hauser, and she serves as the Director of Environmental Compliance for DeKalb County, Georgia. And as such, she is responsible for our capital improvement plan as well as for drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater that is associated with our consent decree. She has undergraduate and graduate degrees in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech, as well as a master's in business administration. As you know, she is also a lawyer, and she's practiced environmental and natural resources law prior to joining DeKalb County. Last but not least, we have Director Tracy Hutchinson, who is in charge of beautification. She has experience in waste management as a professional, as well as an environmental assessment and enhancement of compliance, as well as solid waste processing, disposal, and landfill operations. Her career spans over 20 years and specializes in design ideas, concepts, and proposals across organizational levels. So at this time, we will begin following the program. And I see next up, I assume I'm not the mistress of ceremony. Commissioner Patrick, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam CEO, for that introduction. With that being said, let's get into it. First up we have is Maria Hauser, Director of the Consent Decree, CIP, Environmental Compliance. Maria, I believe, has been with the county for several years. She's also worked in the private sector, dealing with consent decree issues, and ultimately is here to help us get the county back on track so that we have a functional, modern water and sewer system. With that said, Maria Hauser, if you would, please come on up.
Hello, everyone. Good to have you here with us today. So as we talk about the water system, we're going to first give you an overview. We've already mentioned that we have problems. Part of the problem is we have not planned, as the CEO said, for 60 years. Some of the pipes we have in place are over 100 years old. So we have a lot of issues, but we also have solutions. So to kind of lay the groundwork, just to share some information first before we get into the action plan and how we're going to utilize industry standards. We're going to start off with an overview. Then we're going to have our technical experts here. They're sitting in the front. They help advise us in the CIP and to ensure that we're meeting best practices in the U.S., actually U.S. and Canada, and some of them are even worldwide standards for our utility. And then we're going to talk specifically about upcoming projects, and specifically one, which we are naming Dunwoody Knoll. We are approaching that to address the issues that all of y'all probably felt this morning when you got up. So that's going to be good news, and I know later on, after we have the sanitation bit, you will get an opportunity to ask questions via the note card. So please go ahead and write your questions down. Okay, I'll start off with the infrastructure overview. So just the system as a glance. So the pipes, one of the reasons we have such a challenge, our water pipes span from here in DeKalb County all the way to San Francisco. It's a lot of pipe. And we have to take the time to assess those pipes. Those pipes, as I mentioned before, some of them are from 1909, 1911, that are still in the ground, and we are having to still utilize them because a CIP has not been in place for decades. The other thing,
And I'm sorry, because I want to make sure, I'm also a former professor, that we have the same conversation. How many of you know what CIP means?
oh,
Okay, I didn't think so. When we say the term CIP, it means Capital Improvement Plan. So when we're sitting here saying that there had not been a CIP for 60 years, there had been no plan for remediation. There was no structure and no organization surrounding it. Okay, now back to you, Maria.
thank you so much. As the CEO said, that second block there, it identifies the amount of breaks we experience. So Reggie, who is our director, his crews are kind of the first responders. You have to have about three sets of crews every single day responding to water breaks. It's not a sustainable way to operate a water system, and I'm sure you all could agree with that going forward. We have, and we're going to get into this with our consultants, we have a methodology by which we have rated every single pipe in the county. That took a huge effort. It took us a number of years to gather the information, and part of that is we have identified 12.3 miles of pipe that's at high risk of failure, or they have a high consequence. If it fails, it's going to do a lot of bad things. In other words, hundreds of thousands of people may be out of service, including hospitals, critical facilities that we need water to be sustainable. However, we have a plan, which is why we're going to invest in the 10-year CIP period almost $1 billion to correct some of these failures that you are experiencing right now, because we really want to increase the level of service for all of you. I mean, I can't imagine waking up this morning and having to change plans and having to do that last week and the week before and the month before. That cannot be sustainable. So we have a plan to address that. Okay, let's just talk breaks in general throughout the county. And I'm not going to go through individual areas, but you could see there are a lot of areas in the county, the different cities, that have experienced huge break frequency. I'll just give you something that's anecdotal. We fall here in Georgia, we fall into the American Water and Wastewater Association. They actually grade utilities throughout the county. We're in Region 2. We have about 33 breaks per mile per year. The average in our area is 16. We have a lot of catching up to do. Other utilities here in the South, whether it's in Florida, whether it's in North Carolina, they are averaging 16. We are double that right now. And that's because of the lack of investment over the decades in our water infrastructure. So why does this matter, what we're talking about now? As our water system ages, that the expectation of breaks, the risk of breaks goes up, right? So our age of pipes that are over 100 years, I think everybody would agree, they're probably gonna break a bit more. But it gets worse than that. Since 1974, we, DeKalb County, and we're the government, so we're gonna have to take the blame. It doesn't matter that our predecessors did not act. We have to take on that mantle to get something done. Our huge lines, which come out of our treatment plant, they're called transmission mains. They're kind of the highways, like the interstate highways of our water system. When we get into the community, we get to the smaller size pipes. So, in DeKalb County, we have not replaced a transmission main since 1974. That's 50 years. So there is not enough capacity in the system to transport our drinking water. So to be able to do that at the water treatment plant, guess what you have to do? You have to apply more pressure to get it out. So if you have old pipes and pressure, what do you get? Oh yeah, cracks, breaks, geysers, unintended lakes. And that's what we are also facing. So it's not just aging infrastructure, it's infrastructure that has not kept up with the growth we have had in DeKalb County. So we also need to address that as well when we're talking about the solution. Finally, we understand, we want to make sure we have it up there, that the impact that it's having in your life. As I mentioned before, it's quite disruptive when you woke up this morning. I'm sure a lot of y'all experienced that right here and now. So the approach that we are utilizing, and this has been in the, we have been working on this for a number of years because it takes a number of years to turn the ship, and now we have actual results. So our approach is to come up to industry standards. We have a lot of people to assist us in getting that methodology. We focus on the American Water and Wastewater Association, a lot of the principles that they have laid out to ensure we have a robust utility going forward. One thing we do want to share with you on the next slide, we have done some investments within, Commissioner Patrick, within your district. They're listed there. The amount that has been invested is about $30 million. And I want you to remember that number because you're going to see the number at the end, and I'll just go ahead and give you the preview. We are going to invest 6 times that amount here within your district. So we're going to move that number to $190 million over the next 10-year period. And one thing you may not know, in DeKalb County, we have a master planning effort which looks at the Atlanta Regional Commission, their data as to how populations are going to grow in what areas in DeKalb County, what different commercial entities may be coming in, what industries may be coming in, and we utilize that data in 2020 to plan out 50 years. So we're going forward 50 years in anticipating not just how we fix the system, but how we create capacity, because it does not make sense me going ahead and replacing that 6-inch pipe that keeps on breaking with another 6-inch pipe. Because eventually your homes are going to say, why do we have low water pressure? Because we don't have the capacity in there. So we are going to address it that way. There are several projects that have already been completed, and we're going to move forward to more. What I'm going to do
and
is
also, Maria,
go ahead.
I'm just sitting here because, as you speak, I want to make sure that we create a very realistic playing field. I want you to explain the difference between our PSARPs, our Priority Sewer Assessment Rehabilitation Plan, and our OSARPs. And that's really important because where we are now at this moment, because there is so much remediation necessary, we must rely largely on science based upon what we see when we set a determination as to the order in which we are addressing issues. So please explain those.
So I'm sure everybody understands that we are under a consent decree for our sewer system. So we have our drinking water system, which brings water that we utilize for cooking, washing, showering. And then we have the waste stream that goes down the drain into our wastewater system. We have obligations the same time we are experiencing multiple water breaks and capacity challenges in our drinking water system. We also have our consent decree that our judge is looking at us over fixing the wastewater system because we're having spills. The PSARP area that the CEO just mentioned, those are the priority areas. Those are the areas where anytime it rains, you get sewage spilling out in specific areas. And we have to address that at the same time. So our entire capital improvement program is based on a prioritization we go through a systematic approach. So there are two methodologies that we utilize. For the overall capital improvement program, which is a 10-year look at all the projects that need to take place here in DeKalb County, and even in this area right here in Dunwoody, we rank them by the seriousness of it. The overall CIP program, we utilize the methodology from the World Bank as well as the Environmental Protection Agency, the federal guidelines. And then under that, we even rank our water projects according to the American Water and Wastewater Association. And we're going to have one of our wonderful engineers from AECOM come up and discuss that with us again. So we have a lot of priorities. As I said before, we have a lot of pipe from here to San Francisco, and when everything is broken or aged, we have to figure out a methodology as to which one do we fix first. And I'm going to let Shane go ahead and talk a little bit about how we are utilizing the American Wastewater Association to rank our drinking water pipes. And then I'll come back and I will share with y'all specifically what we're going to be doing to address a lot of issues you're having. So come up, Shane, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Director Hauser. I'm Shane Ramarak. I'm an engineer on the CIP team, specifically assisting with addressing our issues with our water transmission system. And yeah, I'd like to take you through what we do from a condition assessment, a risk assessment approach, through to so identifying projects and basically creating projects to provide resilience, long-term resilience to the system, which is really in need of that at this moment. Thank you. So Director Hauser took you through some of the stats and the numbers on the breaks, and yes, it is a lot. It's about 1,000 breaks per annum experienced in the county. The figure that we have up there shows us over the past 8 years all the breaks in the county, and as you can see, that is a lot, and it is representative of the enormity of our infrastructure, the age of our infrastructure, and the fact that we have this problem basically means that we have to move from this approach where every time we find these breaks, for example, we're experiencing about, on average, 3 breaks per day. We cannot just be sort of chasing that. We need to move to a proactive approach where we identify large-scale replacement and have a sort of systematic approach to that, a scientific approach that is based on industry best practice, and if not industry best practice, then world practice that's used and adopted worldwide. So next slide, please.
Shane, if I could interrupt just 1 second.
Yes.
So when you say using the best science, using the best industry standards, can you get into some of that criteria? I know Maria mentioned it briefly, but the idea that hospitals, certain size neighborhoods, what is it that goes into the background of saying this is the prioritization?
Sure, absolutely. So what we have on the screen right now is basically a snapshot, a view of what this risk assessment is about, this condition assessment, and it does really speak to Commissioner Patrick's question. So what we have at a high level, what we look at in terms of the risk assessment is the likelihood and consequence of failure, where we have the likelihood of failure basically represents the condition of the infrastructure. When we speak about condition, some of the input to the condition is actually the age of the infrastructure. So in addition to how old it is, how many breaks it's received, what's the useful life, the expected useful life of the infrastructure, so forth. The other component of that, and equally important, is then the consequence of failure. And it is exactly as the term suggests, it's what is the impact of that failure. So when we have a break, how does that affect critical infrastructure? How does that affect the rest of the transmission system? So there's those components that we look at to get to a score, and for each of these little segments of pipe. So that's how we put all of that together. What you see on the top middle of the screen there is actually like some of that scoring in terms of color and the risk that the profile that we've provided to each of the segments, each of the 3,000 miles of segments in the system. Further to that, moving from that scoring, there's a graphical representation. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but basically we have the network. We draw the network out, and it's basically we provide like color coding in terms of the risk of that. So it's a graphical representation of the risk assessment that we provide on that. So, and all of the risk assessment, again, is the way this approach is a worldwide approach. It's per the American Water Works Association manual on this. This is done not just in the US, but worldwide. Moving forward from that, we need to actually then take those segments of pipeline and create projects instead of sort of chasing those breaks that you saw on the first slide. And there are just too many of those to actually conduct this exercise in a feasible manner. So what we do is we create projects out of them, and these projects are massive. I think the Dunwoody Knoll project, for example, and that would be pertinent to the discussion today, that is about 14,500 linear feet of pipeline. And that's actually a massive project, massive investment. So we're not replacing like a segment of pipeline or, as they would call it, a stick of pipeline. We go about systematically saying we're going to replace an entire neighborhood, or, for example, on the right-hand side, you see an important corridor, so busy route, where we replace that entire corridor, the pipeline along that. So that's an overview of the process. There's obviously a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of input. There's a lot of constraints, criteria that's considered in making this picture, but that's sort of a good high-level overview of what we do. I'd like to hand it over to Director Hauser to take you through the next phase of what we're planning to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shane. So that's, we also have our other team members here sitting in the front from our consultants that assist us in the capital improvement program. So we're going to switch gears now. I'm not sure if all of y'all understood the methodology, but that's what we utilize. We don't want to stay as a utility that have made mistakes in the past. We don't want to repeat them again. So we want to become one of the best utilities and follow industry standards going forward. So as we look forward, one of the critical components in addressing this problem is money. It doesn't matter how much I want to fix the system. If I don't have resources, we can't do it. And for the past 2 years, we have had contractor capacity. We just did not have the funding. And the CEO, within less than 2 months of coming in, made the bold move to make a recommendation, and the board adopted the effort to invest in our water system to address the issues that we're having there. So we have the capability now to get the work done over the next 10 years. So first of all, on the next slide, you could see that bold move done has given us the opportunity to generate $4.27 billion over the next 10-year period. And I think you will recall that I've said already, $1 billion is going to happen on the water pipe system to make sure we address some things. There are other components. Of course, we're going to be issuing bonds later on this year. We are also going to be taking out low-interest loans from the federal government. the state government as well. That's part of our plan. We do have some fees, and we do look at grants as well as a portion of the SPLOS to help us in this endeavor. So let's talk about specifically what we're going to do. This is just a graphical representation of the lines that you see there, the little squiggly lines of the investments that are going to happen in this district's, Commissioner Patrick, over the 10-year horizon, and specifically here in Dunwoody as well. There, on the next slide, you could see different projects. And remember I told you about that $190 million? You see that total at the bottom there? There are several projects that are going to be undertaken here. So part of the challenge, you're going to see something, I'm sure this question is going to come up. Dunwoody Knoll is listed as 2028, and it's under review. And I wanted to leave it like that. We thought about that. When it was ranked last year, and we have hundreds of projects throughout the county that's ranked. It's under review right now. We have looked at how the system has performed for the first 6 months, and that is subject to change because of the constant breaks. Now, I'll tell you this, I'll just be honest. There are about 9 to 12 other communities that are experiencing the same thing you are. That may not be comforting to you that other people are also experiencing this, and we're going to take that into account. We renew the capital improvement program. We take a second look at it every 2 years. We take a look at the water projects within the CIP every year before we start the new year. So that's why the project that's needed to address the issues that you faced this morning, that you faced last week, the week before, and the month before, it's going to be moving from 2028 forward. Of course, just as you may expect, because we have a lot of projects in the pipe, that means some neighborhoods are going to have to wait. But because of what the CEO has said, because of what Shane has said, we are following the data. We are utilizing a systematic approach that's appropriate, not just for utilities here in the US, but throughout the world. So we are addressing the issues as they come from an objective perspective. And if we are seeing impacts to the system, then that's going to drive us to change gears and say, okay, we need to move up a project sooner rather than later. Let me tell you, hopefully that addresses a lot of concerns that may have been raised. Let's just talk about a couple other critical projects that are also going to be taking place in the county that are upcoming. And one of the biggest ones, remember I talked to you about we have not built a transmission main in 50 years. We have to build one now. Our pipes cannot keep on withstanding that pressure that they're experiencing, and this is on the public side. It does not impact you in your homes because every home is supposed to have a pressure-reducing valve that connects to the public side that reduces the pressure into your home. So you are not experiencing, but the public pipes are experiencing that challenge. So that 60-inch transmission main, and you're going to see it looped around there on the screen. We're going to have to run it from the water treatment plant over to North Lake Mall. It's a huge endeavor. Just phase 1 is going to cost $160 million just to do phase 1. And there are a couple of phases to get that loop completed. Does anyone know that we only have one water treatment plant here in the county? It's not a good story to just have one source of drinking water, but that's what we have. So we have to make that plant a bit more resilient. Anyone know we still have 1942 era equipment at that water treatment plant, the only one we have? So we're going to address that as well within the 10-year horizon. Because if you could imagine, if that plant fails, everyone is not going to have water here in DeKalb County. So that's another big project that's going to be taking place here. We're also going to work on replacing our tanks that we have throughout the county. I'm sure when everybody was turning in here, you saw the tank, the water treatment, the drinking water tank, above ground tank. We also have plans for building out the storage system as well. So because we only have one water treatment plant, and we can't have that fail, we need additional storage throughout the county, and we plan to do that. So we're also going to be having Dunwoody storage tanks as an effort as well. So make sure do you need to write it down, the question, because we're going to do questions written. We'll get to it, I'm sure. I'm just trying to stay on schedule, and I think that's it for the water project.
Okay, we are going to change the format a bit this evening because I know that water has been top of mind. And while we have the professionals, we are going to abort the current.
The current plan, we're going to adapt to reality. And as of right now, I know everyone has questions, cue cards that have been passed out, and you have hopefully written your questions down, and I believe we have some staff members going around collecting those. I know Tara Smith, my chief of staff, is in the back over there. I believe Martha Ravello is also helping out collecting any of the cue cards. And we do want to get your comments and your questions.
And at this time, our Director, Reggie Wells, will begin the Q&A.
All right, first question, $30 million investment in District 1 over what time period?
Absolutely, great question. Roughly a 10-year period as a result of the previous CIP program that was passed in 2011, I believe it was.
All right. Do we have the next card? Yeah, bring them up, I'll read them out. Okay, we'll just do 50-50. Madam CEO, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, the next question for Chamblee Dunwoody Knoll. Is there a simpler method than replacing the whole main? Let me say to you 2 words. It's time. And by not taking action and making necessary replacements, history will continue to repeat itself. Now, as we make these repairs, it will require us to work together. We will have to give you constructive notice that for a period of time, you may be without water. But that is with the intent of you not having future service disruptions. Because we simply cannot continue to go down this road. And I want to also be clear, when you're experiencing unexpected water main breaks, we spend more money replacing and repairing those because we have to call in emergency crews. So I've attended these and I've had folks say, well, why fix what ain't broke? It'll let you know. Well, no. It's time. So we are going to stick to the schedule that we've created, and I also want to be clear that the schedule that we've created in many ways has to do also with our ongoing consent decree, because we were required to set priority sewer rehabilitation assessment, and that also began to create the direction in which we needed to go for the water repairs. So I really understand the spirit of what you're saying, but it's not a simpler way. A simpler way would have been for us to be more responsible decades ago so we wouldn't be here today. But I want to be very clear. Most people concern themselves more with what they can see than what they cannot. But what you can't see, the infrastructure, directly affects what you can. And for you, I want to say, and I always commend Dunwoody, you've had great growth. 70 years of growth, no expansion of water structure. And that creates a problem with pressure as well as breaks. So unfortunately, we are going to replace the whole main, and although it may be difficult initially, I think ultimately you'll say thank you once we get it done.
Madam CEO, if I could follow up with that, and Director Wells, correct me if I'm wrong. The segmented, as it breaks, repair it approach tends to cause more problems because the pipe next to it that just got replaced can fail. Can you speak to that?
Correct. So ultimately, in order to execute a repair, we have to do what we have to do what is called an isolation. So at that time, we actually have what is actually our inline water valves that we have to close in order to then shut off the water to the breached portion of a system. And at that time, draining the system and relieving that pressure, the system becomes susceptible once the repair is made and you're returning pressure and flow to possibly breach again at a different area where there is the aged pipe that was not replaced during that time. And it, you know, ultimately it's worth mentioning, if I had a one and we were gonna initiate replacement tomorrow, we still would have to maintain the existing system while in construction with the new system, because there's just not a way to do any in situ type method where you can actually replace and not have the old system in service. So there's going to be a need to maintain what we have anyway until we ultimately can bring the new, construct a new system, bring it online, and decommission the old.
Okay, thank you. All right, now this next one, if I didn't know better, was from my good friend Kim, who lives at Harris Circle and Chambly Dunwoody Road. Plans for Harris Circle during the project. Harris Circle is unlined, multi-blind spots along the curve. Looks like vehicles drive distracted and very fast through the neighborhood, and there are lots of kids in the area. What can we do to sort of make that easier? Is there a way that we can coordinate with Dunwoody, in particular Dunwoody Police Department, to either put cones in the street or for that detoured area when people are going up and down a hill with low visibility? What can we do to help improve that situation?
Absolutely. So a number of these type of items go into the planning of actually executing the actual construction once the design and permitting and things have taken place. Even Chambly Dunwoody in itself being a two-lane, ultimately we will have to really look at the necessary traffic control mechanisms in place to ensure safety of vehicular traffic, pedestrian traffic, and ultimately the residents that reside in those localized areas where we're doing construction. So ultimately, there will be a combination of not only police, but also different type of traffic control devices.
My question is about like what happened today, though, I think. The question is, you know, during these times when we're on the break, everybody's going through Harris Circle, what can you do to slow that traffic down?
So ultimately, we'll work with the city of Dunwoody. We don't necessarily execute a detour in a vacuum. It will be in coordination with Dunwoody. Ultimately, these are emergencies. They're not planned, so we're doing the best we can to lessen the interruption as much as possible. But if there are some particular locations that we know in particular, we can look to plan ahead to try to do better,
As
given.
David said, Harris Circle is a priority. The topography with the hills and the low visibility and the curves that are on that street can be problematic. So, CEO, if we can have a conversation with Dunwoody and talk about how we can coordinate better to make that more effective.
Okay.
All right, next question.
And this is a great question. It says, Commissioner Juster used to publish all spills and leaks. I remember. Does the county publish the info on the website? Can they or will they? I have two words for you. It's called Project Finder. And Mayor Deutsch, did you experience it yet? One thing that I want to do, I really like everyone here, but we don't need you calling us. I want to put information at your fingertips. So what we have now is called Project Finder, and we are launching a new county website before the end of the year. And with Project Finder, you can go there and you can find every pothole that's been reported. You will have the ability to find every leak at that instant. Even the manhole covers, everything that you want to know that is active will show on a board. You'll even see where we're in the process of constructing our fire stations. So yes, the technology has been developed. We were to preview it tonight, but I don't think that's the right thing to do because we've not yet taken it before the Board of Commissioners. At the request of several of our mayors at the top of the year, we had a conversation on how we can better work together. Also, I will say, and I will ask Martha, because we do immediately receive notifications of water main breaks. Are we not sharing that information now? Okay, so as soon as it occurs, that was another low-hanging fruit that was easy to rectify. We now forward all of the notifications onto all 12 of our cities. And I want to be clear, that was not happening previously. So I'm not sure if, they wish to publish also on their website or directory, because one of the issues we have is communication, because as cities, you guys get what I call 2 bites of the apple, or from it. You have a city, and then we're still bound to the county. You may not be receiving my newsletter sitting in this room. So you wouldn't know what I'm sharing with the constituents on the county side. So I urge all of you to visit the website and register for the county newsletter as well. But yes, we are sharing their information, and at the top of the year, when our new website goes live, then you will have access to Project Finder.
All right. Next question. When the worn-out pipes break and the water damages adjacent property, who is responsible for fixing it? Who do we contact to be compensated, and how do you file a claim? And Reggie, I think that would be a good question for you to answer.
Absolutely. We have, if I can just grab my phone for a second, we have a we have a 24-hour call center, as we operate 24/7, and ultimately, you can ultimately report at any time, and this number is also on our website, our Department of Watershed Management website, 770-270-6243. If any of you have experienced water infiltration or anything as it relates to a water main break, please contact us immediately. We'll send someone to inspect, ultimately schedule with you to get water remediation done by one of our contract vendors at your convenience when you're available.
And Reggie, I'll add, I've had residents in the past reach out by email to me and say, hey, I've been affected by something with DeKalb Water and Sewer. What's the next step to get this taken care of? And I've reached out to COO Williams, and we've got the process started. It can be very quickly, but it's also important to get that contact started immediately. So please, I have some business cards at the back. If you don't already have my contact information, please take a business card and reach out.
Okay, the next question I have here is, where is the water treatment plan, I believe you're asking? It will be sent out immediately, which I do believe that we've already shared the data on the projects and the list for the timeline for work, but we will forward this entire presentation over to Mayor Deutsch as well as our council members for dissemination so that you have it. Now, again, it remains under constant review. I often say these are living documents. You wake up one day or 2 days or a month, and dependent upon future leaks, we may have to adjust what we have. But at this moment, based upon the science, this is the plan schedule that we presented here this evening.
All right, next question. When are the improvements to the water treatment plant to be completed? Since it affects all of the DeKalb County residents, why isn't this the first thing being done?
So ultimately, we have reoccurring capital expenditures constantly at our Scott Candler drinking water plant. However, the loop, yes, so there's a whole multitude of capital programs planned for Scott Candler. The large 60-inch loop is just one of many huge capitals, but there are several that go ongoing currently and also that are planned.
But the level engineer mentioned that the water pressure is, the gauges on that plant are not up to date, and then that's affecting the water down the line and possibly would go
So
So,
we're actually, it's been designed, and do we start procurement next year on the Claire wells?
yes.
Yes, so we start next year on the Claire wells. It's going to be a multi-year project because it's going to be just over $2 million just to correct the issues at Scott Candler.
Will that help the pressure that,
It will,
that's causing these to happen?
so that and the loop, the 60-inch
Yes.
loop, that's also in design right now. But even that 60-inch loop actually is going to take longer, just the phase one, to get done even than the water treatment plant. But we have started it already. It's been slotted for work as well.
Yes, so to answer your question, it's not one sole project that will solve it. It's a multitude that requires phasing and,
And we're going to do it concurrently. So
Yes.
we're not, because these are all critical, we're going to work on the water treatment plant plus the 60-inch main loop, plus the individual projects that affect the community here. So a lot of things are going to start ramping up next year after we got the security of the investment from the board this year.
Any federal money, like actually for all the infrastructure improvements that our federal government is promising they're gonna fund?
WIFIA, well, let me say this, we
we
have
apply
currently
for them constantly,
WIFIA.
but
Yeah, WIFIA, Water Infrastructure Finance Investment Act loans we have. We also have GFA, Georgia Environmental Finance Investment Act loans. Also this year, John, I want to thank our Senator, John Ossoff. He brought us the money. Believe it or not, across the state of Georgia, and actually I was shocked when we were in Washington, our water infrastructure is kind of infamous. I want to be clear, and I also want to time date things, because I told you earlier, I'm a numbers person. In 45 days, I was faced with passing the largest water infrastructure investment in the history of DeKalb County. And I often want to go back and talk about, well, how did we get here? If you look at the numbers in the packet that I'm going to send, it will make it very clear to you. We should have been increasing our water investment, meaning your water rates and mine, over the past several decades. And we plain and simply didn't do it. Now, at my house, we're empty nesters. Our water bill fluctuates. I'm very transparent. From $18 to when we really have guests, we around $48. Our water rates are minimal, and it has affected us. Also, I'm charged with collecting over $185 million in outstanding water bills. I want you to be very clear. And I'm not here to hurt people, but I am here to operate a utility. And that money, over the past several years, it would have been critical in helping us move the ball down the field. But I've taken it after the punt. My husband likes sports. And I am running towards the end zone as quickly as I possibly can. After us sitting on the sideline for so many years, knowing what we should have done, and plain and simply not doing it.
But the people in the county and their peers can't pay our reduced water rates. How are they gonna pay increased water rates when you have $100 and some million?
And that is a good question, and I'm happy to share with you what we've done there. The average water bill in DeKalb County, out of, how many ratepayers do we have total, Maria? I know you deal in the numbers, is it around?
200,000.
200,000 ratepayers. Average water bill in DeKalb County is $69. The average individual in DeKalb County will see a $6.90 rate increase. Okay? And actually, we have to move towards disconnection of service for not paying. However, what we are doing, and I want to be very clear there, for those who have income sensitivities, we are using anyone who receives SNAP as well as Medicaid receive automatic qualification for income sensitivity. Also, we're using the HUD model, which looks at the median household income, and it sets the standards, and we're capping it below what is considered the national average of 5%. It allows, to give the national average, you can charge up to 3% of household income for water and sewer, up to 5%. But our DeKalb County Board of Commissioners, and I completely agree, have capped it at 4.5%. So anyone who has an income sensitivity, we are asking you now to come forward. We will verify the income sensitivity, and you will be given income-sensitive rates. And we are outsourcing that through the United Way of Greater Atlanta, so that it is handled by an independent agency to verify the need, and we are more than happy to work with those individuals. We understand that receiving water and having access to it is a matter of life and quality of life.
Okay, I think we got that answer.
Now, I also, this is really important because I know that we're in the middle of dealing with water issues here. There was a question concerning the brown water, and after each water main break, I checked DeKalb watershed for boil water advisories, but there's never one. Is that intentional? Do we not need to boil the water after these? Today, the water is brown coming out of the faucet after the repair. So, can we please address boil water advisories? I do know that the water has to be tested and there is a determination when those should be going out. So if they are not going out, it should be because it has not been deemed necessary. But let's talk about that process.
Absolutely. Is that your question?
No, my question is this, okay, so if we got 60 years of mismanagement, and so many of those people are still working within the county, why would anybody trust y'all's methodology for testing water?
Great question. So the 60 years of mismanagement is no longer in power or in leadership. Additionally, those individuals, those water professionals, are licensed by the state of Georgia. They're required to be recertified biannually. CEUs, constant scrutiny. We're also audited quite frequently by the state to ensure that our practices are protective to the public. Additionally, we have to certify every year a CCR report that discuss our practices, the results of those, samples, all of that. Please rest assured, if there was any funny business as it relates to us sampling or lack thereof, it will be noted sooner than later.
And also, let me say, speaking to what you said concerning, how can you trust folk to do things now that they haven't done traditionally? I want to be clear, traditionally, the money hadn't been there. So the work, although you understand the remediation was necessary, just didn't happen. There was no aggressive schedule. There was no capital improvement plan. There was no chart of what roads would be addressed or what pipes, even during a period of time, because you worked within the confines of what you had. And that was very limited. And I just want to be clear there. So I don't want us to perhaps label individuals as not capable or competent. The work wasn't done because there was no money to do the work. And that doesn't make the person incompetent. Perhaps the eye should be on the leadership.
And if I may, Madam CEO,
And that goes,
if I
for
could,
even me.
yes, ma'am. If I could unpack that a little bit. So I think it's important to distinguish. CIP, capital investment, is substantially different from operations. So what I mean by that is, at no time has the Department of Watershed Management ever not been well funded as far as the ability to operate, meaning provide and produce safe drinking water, that's why, if you guys hadn't noticed, we're pretty good at responding to water main breaks. They happen frequently, and yet as you sit, although you were out of water this morning, there's currently water now. What At the root of this situation, the 60 years of mismanagement or lack of investment, lack of paying attention is related to capital expenditure, which requires these two distinguished type individuals, board action, CEO action, et cetera. It has nothing to do with the 700 men and women that are constant professionals and take what they do very serious every day to ensure that they serve you all and provide the best possible service. It's two distinct different things, which unfortunately, you can't make up the lack of investment in capital. You will experience these interruptions in services, these failures, et cetera, but it's two complete different things. I think it was worth unpacking that.
Okay. And if you wouldn't mind, just speak one more time to the issue of brown water. What should the residents be doing?
Yes. So the reason for the not issuing of a boil water advisory is ultimately because it was a break in the system that was isolated. At no time was there a interruption in our ability to maintain constant pressure throughout the system. When we lose power or the ability to treat and pump treated water into the distribution system above 20 psi throughout our service area in totality, or there's a positive sample of potential bacteria or any substance or any variance outside of allowable tolerances, at that time a boil water advisory is issued. And basically a boil water advisory is stating that there's a potential, not that there's been a confirmation, but there's a potential of a contaminant in a drinking water source. Once that's issued, we do a series of testing throughout our service area to ensure that test was either an outlier, anomaly, or what have you, that indeed our water is safe. We will not lift that advisory until we have conclusive sample of just that.
Does that include the brown water that's coming out today?
So I'm going to get to that. So brown water is, believe it or not, in the Safe Drinking Water Act, there's tiers to compliance. Brown water is considered a static. In fact, brown water doesn't necessarily speak to the fact that there's a contaminant or is harmful. Ultimately, the source of the brown water is ultimately shift in pressure or calcium buildup, tuberculation that ultimately has been shifted or dislodged due to the surge of pressure when there was a break or closing of valves, et cetera. Although very inconveniencing and looks awful, it's not an indication that the water is not safe to drink.
So it's not the mud, it's not the soil that's gotten in there. You're saying that it is actually accumulation of debris that happens in the pipe over time.
Correct.
And then when the break happens, there's
It's stirred
that
up.
rush of pressure.
Correct.
Which interesting.
Yes, it's the official word of it, of what is classified as, is tuberculation. It's basically mineral builds up, a settlement within the system.
All right, let's,
Yes, flush, yeah.
Flush the line.
Yes, thank you.
that's the simple and best solution.
Yeah, so purge your system. Oftentimes you'll see us, that's why when we're trying to restore water, we'll have hydrants open that's also kind of inconveniencing to a number of our customers because we're trying to purge that air and that brown water to subside it entering your home.
How are we made aware we need to boil water? You issue it, but how do we know about it?
So there will be communication across every form, meaning the media, the social media.
And code red. How many of you in here have code red? If you have code red, sometimes be prepared. It can be in the middle of the night. But if we determine that there is a threat to public safety, your phone is going to go off. You will hear the dings, and it will say, this is a message or alert, and we will then give notification. So if you're comfortable with receiving notifications at any time of day or night, then go to DeKalb County GA.gov and type in the search bar code red, and you will receive those notifications.
And anytime we do issue a boil water advisory, we typically have what it's called a banner that's on the county website as well, making it clear that we're currently under a boil water advisory.
Let me ask you another question, maybe Ben, that you know something. I live in an area that was affected by the break today.
Yes, sir.
It was a real long time to get that fixed. I kind of understand why the guys have been talking, they're working on it, I've talked to some of them, they're really nice. But when it was all done and the water was turned on, in our house, we noticed it around 5 p.m. We ran water for 15, maybe 20 minutes on a number of faucets, just to get rid of the brown water. Never happened. So we ended up shutting them down and hoping that somebody else cleans that junk out of there while we're here at this meeting. And when I came to the meeting, I got a message from a neighbor who said, well, they turned the water off again. And I just got this after 6 o'clock when I walked in. I didn't know if you knew that or not. It may or may not still be fixed.
Yeah, so I'll confirm. I do know as of 4:30ish, the actual physical pipe repair was completed, and we were purging air and bringing the water system back up, and it was restored as of about 5:30, but it's not uncommon for,
I've had other problems before like this, where you just run the water for, 5-10 minutes and it cleans up. Didn't happen this time for some reason, so it was a little scary,
okay,
just so you know.
absolutely. I'll find out before we leave here.
If you don't mind sharing your contact information, we'll make sure that there's communication between you and the director. Listen, folks, I just want to give a time check. We're at 7:17, almost 7:20, and I promised we'd get you out of here at 7:30. We have a couple more questions on the cards to go through. If you're fine going through those, we'll get those taken care of as quick as possible. And then if there's time, I wouldn't mind introducing Tracy Hutchinson, our sanitation director, beautification director. I think she has a lot of good stuff to update you with. But I knew we did commit to 7:30, so if that's problematic, I understand if you guys have to get going. Madam CEO, I forget who was next, but if it's all right, I'm going to ask this question. What percentage of pipes to homes are lead? And I think that's a great question that both Maria and Reggie are well-versed on that question.
At this time, we haven't encountered any lead service lines in DeKalb County. As of October 16, 2024, we were required to submit our initial inventory. We're constantly still surveying to ensure that we account for each and every known service and identify its material regardless of what it is. We do have, after combing over our records, there are portions of our system that we hadn't been able to completely identify, but as I stand here today, we have not identified any lead services in DeKalb County.
But I do want to give you a fact that I often think through, that by 2030, 40% of our infrastructure, our pipes will be 70 years or older. Just to put into perspective. And we do still have some cement pipes that exist in DeKalb County. And those are pipes that were generally installed around 100 years ago. So we are just dealing with a lot of aging infrastructure, to be very clear. And there's one card that cut to the chase and said, bottom line, when will frequent water stoppages end? And I want to say I wish I had that magic ball. Because oftentimes, in the morning I wake up with one agenda, and before you get to the office, you're already warned, well, we have a water main break. And I didn't plan for it, neither did you, but it's just the reality of what we're dealing with. But over the course of the next 10 years, and I do want to say that Dunwoody, I think you all are about the third largest in terms of the amount of new infrastructure that we're bringing in. You guys are literally getting a new system. So when that new system is fully in place, I'm sure that's when, during that 10-year period, you should continue to see a diminishing effect on infrastructure.
All right, we'll move on to the next question. Does the county receive any federal money to get us up to standard quicker? Are there impact studies for development in the county? Are the developers, builders, businesses assessed for their impact on the communities where they are building? So, Reggie?
Yes, so the short answer is yes.
Yes, and yes.
There are both tap fees, impact fees, for both water and sewer. And that's how we ensure they invest in the fairly in the capital.
Somebody builds an apartment, you know, these folks are coming in, and we see all these apartments and stuff going on, you know, are there, that was my question, are there impact
Absolutely.
studies so that they are assessed, and that helps the bottom line of the county with the money to do the infrastructure? Because, you know, I guess what I'm wondering is when these people come to the planning meetings and a developer and they wanna build, you know, apartment here or whatever, you know, I understand there's impact studies for the schools and whatnot. But is there one for the utilities? You know, do they look and see? If not, it, you know,
So,
Yeah.
at the zoning level, Reggie's team, as well as the different departments, at least within the county, and I'm sure that the city performs within their scope of authority, their reviews as to what the capacity is, but they do check and see what is available.
are they assessed?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes, ma'am. So-
I want to be clear. I always want to make sure we leave with the proper information. Impact fees have been deemed illegal. However, tap fees are not. Meaning, when people come forward and say we want to build, we have to determine whether or not we have the water sewer capacity. And to be honest, depending on where you are in DeKalb and South DeKalb, there's some projects that cannot move forward because we do not have the water and sewer capacity. So, in some areas, because of our consent decree, we are strictly watched. So as we increase water capacity, we have the CAP program, Capital Assurance Program. And that allows businesses who want to do business to sometimes, many of you may be familiar with the Pepsi plant. We met them halfway because of the major financial investment that would have on our economy locally. And they paid 50% of the necessary funds to remediate the infrastructure, and we paid the other half. So, and that is not an ideal thing. I want to be very clear. I'm not proud of some of the things that we've had to do to move businesses forward, because some people will simply choose not to do business if it's difficult. But we do assess tap fees, and we do not issue water sewer capacity if the county doesn't have it. Because if we go over water sewer capacity, I believe, is it a $53,000 per day fine? On illegal connections, or if we issue a capacity that we do not have under the consent decree. So believe me when I say you don't get it if it's not there, or if it would have a negative impact on our system.
And just to be clear, where most of the development is happening is in the perimeter, and some of that is actually not fed by the DeKalb County. It's part of the Urbana Fulton system, to confuse everybody more.
Correct.
Madam CEO,
But to answer your question, clear, we have both hydraulic models for both our water and sewer system, and there is a certification process to ensure that we don't adversely impact any of our current customers by bringing on too great of a demand.
all right, Madam CEO?
And we have a question here, how will the water affect the fire hydrants? Well, I will say that I've never received notice at this point that one didn't work. So I'm gonna say it's affecting them fine. Now, if I find, oh yes, and I'll let you share that, Maria.
So just because we have seen breaks in the system, the fire department a couple of years ago purchased 2 pumpers that they could deploy if we're having issues in the water system. So they're right there. I can't remember how many gallons they carry, but it's a lot. But 30,000 or so.
And
So
out of-
it's a good investment while we're going through this interim period to make sure we have fire protection.
And let me say, some of the things you may not be aware of, but when we had at the top of the year the 10-inch, 30-inch water main break on Claremont, even though there was no emergency, we had the water pumpers there because you don't plan for an emergency. But in the event there was one, knowing that there was an interruption in water and a lack of capacity for the area, we dispatched those pumpers.
The other thing that we do, we test the hydrants, and then under the capital improvement program, right now, there's a different requirements for the footage between hydrants. And anytime we put in new pipes, like we are going to do in Dunwoody, we're going to correct that as well and get you up to the regular standards. So we will also be putting in hydrants, new valves, so not just the pipes.
And in addition, sometimes upsizing the line, there are, ISO have different requirements as years go on, and we do adjust to ensure that we can meet greater stringent requirements, which also helps when it comes to your home insurance.
That gets to what's called the ISO rating, and I believe DeKalb County is either number 1 or number 2 with our ISO rating, which means that our, number 2, okay, which means that we have, generally speaking, about 1,500-foot radius, if that's correct, Maria, I think. But we're in good financial standing for that, and we do have a well-planned-out water system to address those concerns, so that is a benefit to the taxpayers or the insurance payers that we all have for our homes. We're down to the last 3 cards, so Madam CEO, I'll take this one. Is there a possibility that Dunwoody Knoll project will be moved back later than 2028? Now, from what I had heard from our professionals here, right now it's looking good, that it's on target. However, we do have other portions of the county that may become a factor. If they get worse than we are right now, they may get bumped ahead. But as of right now,
We're actually
There's
looking at
absolutely
moving.
no opportunity for it to move backwards.
Thank you.
I have,
thank you. Thank you very much.
I have 60 men and women scratching their head daily, you know, boss, when are we gonna get this done? We're, you know, the operations side, they're absolutely. Yeah, they're, so, and we partner well, there's no opportunity that it would, more especially if the frequency continue as, it's just not an opportunity for it not to happen later.
Perfect.
And the next question, the topic is water and sanitation infrastructure, but aren't these two independent? And what is that? Aren't these two independent systems, but are they managed and fixed together or independently? Water and sanitation are 2 separate things. Often when we talk water, we also talk stormwater, because in many ways they are. Those are, you know, there's a correlation between the two, so they do operate in conjunction with each other. Because at the end of the day, when you're dealing with spills, and also, you know, I want to say this because I want you all to understand the reality of what I now understand. When we say that we have one source of clean potable water in DeKalb, which is unheard of, honestly, for, yes, at Scott Candler. But with all of our other surrounding municipalities, there are 2 or more sources of clean water. And I want to say to you that the reality of the magnitude that I live with each day is if Scott Candler goes down, after being constructed, I believe, in 1972 with minimal investments, 1942, you all and me would have between 3 and 5 hours of water. You would be out of water before you knew that you didn't have any. And that is the reality that we deal with on a daily basis. So there is a lot of remediation to be done, and we must expand that water supply because many of our surrounding jurisdictions, they have weeks of water in reserve. DeKalb County has 3 to 5 hours if that plant should ever go down. On the snap finger side of things, that is our water treatment plant, wastewater. And we made over a $300 million investment there. And we remain in the testing phase, so there will be more to come there.
Literally just over off of.
Winter's Chapel,
Winter's Chapel, Tilly Mill area.
about 6 miles.
So they,
Bond rating, your bond issuance in '22 is referencing 2 water treatment plants, DeKalb County, and the new Scott Candler plant. And these are your underwriting for the bonds that were issued for the SIP in 2022.
2007,
It's not matching the commentary.
half of the plant was updated. There is still the 2042 era electrical breakers, and we actually had failures along that last year, which caused the plant to temporarily lose service. And they had to scramble because, as the CEO said, you have only 5 hours of water left. There is only 1 water treatment plant, so I'm not sure. There are 2 wastewater treatment plants in DeKalb County. Only one water treatment plant.
So,
And half of it, if you look at the records, there was supposed to be a phase 2 after the first phase to upgrade from 1942 was completed in 2007, and that has never happened. So what, pardon me?
What's the water used in the water treatment plant?
It's the drinking water.
So our raw water source is the Chattahoochee River, right? So we withdraw from there, from our intake pump, actually to the location where we have on-site reservoirs, and then we begin the treatment process from there, and pump into the distribution system, the 3,000 linear miles that span the entire county. So they are 2 completely different systems. There's 1 drinking water plant, 2 wastewater plants serving DeKalb County.
So that's all, basically, there's 3 different sources for water, is that right?
One
No,
source.
no.
Wastewater is after you shower, that everything that goes down the drain, that's the wastewater.
So,
But that water is treated, so where is it treated water?
And it's put back in.
To the,
What- oh.
to the South River.
so
Put in the
yes,
South River.
it's
Yeah,
discharged
it's
back to the South River.
I see.
Understood.
No,
Actually,
Wait a second.
what the gentleman is saying is could be raw water, which could be eventually a source, but that's,
it's a source for Clayton County, because Clayton County
Pulls
pulls
from us, yeah.
further down on the South River for their drinking water. What's tough about it is our drinking water plant is at the top and our wastewater plants are at the bottom of the county. And we don't have any reservoirs. We have in the master plan, and it is available online, we have looked at different options for getting more sources of water in, and the cost is just astronomical, billions of dollars to get something else in, so.
I watched them building that plant on Winter Chapel.
Yeah,
I kind of understood that after that got treated, we were gonna just use it again and go into the city. Apparently not.
so we are, on the Winners Chapel, we are using that right now, but half of it did not get updated in phase 2. It never came back on the board. We actually have records for the Clearwell that we are gonna start building out next year. There have been multiple attempts to design, redesign. I mean, we've gone through the history because, you know, we're new coming in, trying to figure out why wasn't this done previously. So what you saw was actually half of it being constructed, and like the Clare wells and some of the electrical stuff not touched at all from the 40s.
All right, the last question. What is the depreciation timeframe typical for this infrastructure? Alternatively, the difference, what percentage should be invested annually to keep the system properly functioning?
So ultimately, the best management practice or industry leaders typically invest near 3% R&R, renewal and replacement of all their assets annually. So you're on a replacement cycle not greater than 50 years, typically.
We are
Most-
on
Yeah, most
1%.
Yeah, most engineers, you'll hear that a lot of material lasts 100 years. And the fact of the matter is there are some water and sewer infrastructure that indeed is 100+ years old. But likewise, there are some infrastructure that have what we call premature failures, which means that they may be 50 years of age and failing to date. In particular, the line along Shamlin Dunwoody that we're having a trouble constantly is right at about 70 years of age. So it's, you know, it's served us well, and it's just time to plan accordingly and move forward.
So to answer the question as far as dollars, right now in the 10-year CIP, the bottom tier of industry standard is 1%. That translates between $225 to $250 million we need to invest every single year just to maintain industry standards. Then, on top of that, we need to correct the deteriorating systems we have. So as a base, what we share with the CEO and the board is just to get to the bottom tier, not to get to the 3% of the top tier, but just to get to the 1%, we need investment every single year, just under $250 million. And then on top of that, to correct what's wrong at the plant, what's wrong at the pipes, what's wrong with the sewers, we need additional money every single year. So under the CIP, you're going to see us ratchet up. This year, we're targeting about $268 million because the board, the CEO brought the 10 by 10 in February. The board approved it in February. So we don't have the full year because we still haven't issued bonds yet. Next year, that number is going to ramp up, how much we are going to spend in the CIP. And these are some of my key folks in the CIP who track the numbers. We are going to get to, in about 5 years, to $500 million per year investing in the system. This is big dollars, but we have a huge system. Our system is bigger than the city of Atlanta as far as lengths of pipe. So.
Interesting. Okay. Well, listen, Reggie, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. So I want to say thank you for everyone who's come out. I did want us to get into sanitation, but we are getting on to, it's after 7:30, and I did commit to getting you guys home at 7:30 timeframe. What I would love to do is apologize to Miss Tracy Hutchinson for being here. Grateful to her for being here, but we'll call her back for another time. I feel like this was pretty successful. I think we answered a lot of the questions. I don't know if we got every question answered. I'll be hanging out here for a little bit longer afterwards if you'd like to talk a bit some of the other issues we didn't get into. I think CEO might give us a little bit of her time as well before she heads on. Also want to say thank you to Mr. Robert Wittenstein. Thank you for getting us this facility for usage with the town hall. I think it was a very beautiful facility, very helpful. And to that, everyone, thank you very much for coming out here. You've heard from the professionals at the county as to the plan and the approach on how to repair and address the water and sewer system countywide, but really focusing in specifically on Chamblee Dunwoody Road. And get my business card. If there are any issues that are out there, let me know. An old saying someone once told me is call me anytime. If you call me at 2 o'clock in the morning, you might get a 2 o'clock in the morning response, but I will take care of the issue for you. With that, everybody, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Good night.